The state of Sandus has protested and continues to protest the re-entrance of Bradley of Dullahan, of the Kingdom of Wyvern, into the GUM as ancillary and diplomatic staff. These are the three-part offences of Mr. Dullahan: holding this state of Sandus to different measures and standards of diplomacy that he has not applied to his state or to other states, depicting general disrespect to other races and ethnicities, and making racist comments and arguments. Broken logic of his re-entrance into the GUM as ancillary staff, despite a sensible ban on removed and deposed chairs from being ancillary staff. Mr. Dullahan holds this state to different standards than other states because of our politics and his own preferences. The most recent example has been when Mr. Dullahan harassed the office of the Sogamo over its short statement addressing the Zelanian president's remarks against our state. Hours later, however, he stated so absurdly that at some times war is the only viable means of diplomacy. If Mr. Dullahan harasses our state and her policies to redress political attacks under the guidance of Liberia politics, then Mr. Dullahan is not capable of supporting war as a viable means of diplomacy. Furthermore, in past times, Mr. Dullahan has made racial arguments that have sought to divide people based on their race and their ethnicity. Mr. Dullahan has used the same arguments white supremacists use in the United States for slavery, and, in his own words using the terms blacks and whites, he has stated that blacks have the physical capacity to be slaves, and a lack of the same mental capacity of whites to be slave masters. This state sternly protests these remarks, as no leading member of the intermicronational community should ever blatantly disrespect the topics of race that Mr. Dullahan has done. Mr. Dullahan in the past has so generalized and stereotyped Muslims, Arabs, and Turks in the most slanderous of ways. If Mr. Dullahan keeps this up, his image of racial equality and racial peace should be so completely regarded as false that only his words, his false words, will make up that image. This state forthrightly opposes these acts of racist aggression. Finally, a sensible arrangement was made some months ago when Mr. Dullahan was stripped of his role as diplomatic staff due to his resignation and his vote of no confidence back in April. This arrangement made most logical sense, as those who dishonorably resign or are removed in such a way as Mr. Dullahan was should not be privileged to return to any organization to serve as advisory staff to any organization's leaders. However, with Mr. Dullahan's re-entrance taken in the most opportunistic ways when the chair of the GUM was not present, it is clear that this sensible arrangement has been broken, and the logical operating of the organization denigrated by the action of restoring a removed chair as diplomatic and ancillary staff. Since his arrival, Mr. Dullahan has unwittingly disgraced the GUM by calling it on the verge of collapse because of its less frequent quora, and yet he wishes to remain ancillary staff to the GUM. Therefore, this state calls for the most immediate removal of Mr. Dullahan as diplomatic staff in the Grand Unified Micronational. This state will no longer welcome Mr. Dullahan in the GUM. And, finally, this state will resist any application by the government and Kingdom of Wyvern for membership into the GUM.